cameras turned there, right? Two-shot right away. All right, guys, we're going to start this show here. What is today? Wednesday? Wednesday edition of the I Love CVille show. William Clark, welcome to the program. Give the show a like and a share anywhere you are watching. Got some good topic matter that should be relevant to you today. I want to talk about institutional memory versus the value of degrees and certifications on today's show in relation to the police chief hire. The new chief, Michael Kachis, has a lot of degrees and certifications. Tito Durrett, the interim chief, has a lot of institutional memory. So I want to talk about the value proposition of institutional memory versus degrees and certifications on today's show. We will also talk on the program City of Richmond and the changes they're making to Airbnbs. The changes they are making are much more advantageous to owning Airbnbs. And we'll take what's happening in Richmond and ask, if this happened in Charlottesville, what would the impact be? We will chatter Wawa coming to the area. A new Wawa is opening in the market. Route 29 in Greenbrier. School resource officers in the hallways, and a lot more on today's program. Let us know where you are watching. Share the show, like the show. John Holt, welcome to the broadcast. And we'll have some fun today, Judah Wickower and myself. Judah, I can rock and roll when you're ready.
Quiet on the set.
Guys, I'm Jerry Miller, and welcome to the I Love CVille show. Thank you kindly for joining us. Good Wednesday afternoon to you. We are live in downtown Charlottesville and live across every social media platform known to mankind. A lot of topics we're going to cover on today's show, including the value proposition of degrees and certifications versus the value proposition of experience within a department and institutional memory within a department. A police chief was named on Monday evening by City Manager Michael Rogers and then approved by 5 Charlottesville City Councilors. I want to ask you this question, and it's a question that not only applies to the police chief job, but could apply to climbing the vertical ladder in any career path. Should degrees and certifications in higher education be prioritized at a greater or more significant clip than experience within a department, institutional memory, street smarts, and knowing how the business operates? The new police chief, Michael Kachis, has a ton of degrees, including UVA degrees and certifications. Should that, or did that, push Kachis to the finish line as the police chief over someone like Tito Durrett, who may not have the degrees and certifications of Kachis, but, however, has the experience and institutional memory within the department? So let's talk about that today on the program. I also want to highlight on today's show what Richmond, Virginia is doing with its Airbnbs, its short-term rentals. Richmond, Virginia, the city of Richmond, is relaxing the requirements for Airbnbs within its jurisdiction. The specific relax point that I want to highlight is the primary residence requirement. For Richmond City, the primary resident requirement had been a point of contention for operators who rent out more than one property. Officials required someone who did an Airbnb in Richmond to live at that place for half the year. Now, that requirement has been loosened or relaxed, and the owner of the property does not have to live in the property for half the year for it to be an Airbnb in the city of Richmond. So you can own multiple units, multiple properties in Richmond, and no longer have to live in the property half a year for it to be allowed by law to have a short-term rental. That's a pretty big change. That basically means the Airbnb entrepreneurs have way more legal leeway now to operate short-term rentals than they did when they had to live in a property for half the year. We'll talk about what Richmond is doing. You can find this article on richmondbizsense.com, and then we'll ask the question, how are these short-term rentals impacting the Charlottesville area, and would we ever see Charlottesville, Albemarle County relax its regulations when it comes to short-term rentals? That's going to be the second topic of today's show. The third topic of today's show is going to be school resource officers. There's a lot of scuttlebutt percolating around Albemarle County Public Schools that school resource officers are headed back for the hallways. We'll talk about the school resource officers and whether or not you, the mom and dad, you, the teacher, you, the administrator, you, the student, or you, the follower of Albemarle County Public Schools, want to see school resource officers back in the hallways. I personally would love to see school resource officers back in the hallways. We'll let you know some reasons why today on the program. I also want to highlight another Wawa coming to the Charlottesville market. This Wawa is now coming to the corner of Route 29 North and Greenbrier Drive. Scott Thorpe and I were talking about this on social media earlier today. We'll talk about the advantages that big box brands have in this market and why we're starting to see more big box brands really penetrate the area. And I want to highlight the business that I wanted to get to yesterday that's now for sale. A party bus with an asking price of $85,000 is for sale. Let's go to the two-shot. We'll welcome the jack of all trades, the jack of all zips, J-Dubs, the director. Man has many different monikers. Do you have a favorite moniker, Judah?
Jack of all trades is fine.
You like jack of all trades? That was your self-given moniker.
Yeah, of course.
Jack of all zips? Nah. J-Dubs?
Jack of all zips. It doesn't really. It's not evocative.
That was Kevin Higgins. How about J-Dubs? Okay. We'll get to the task at hand, the first topic. So what do you think about this? Michael Kochis, the new police chief, we talked about that yesterday. You and I both indicated we were surprised that he got the job. I think we both expected, like a lot of people, Tito Durrett, when you have 30 years of experience in the department, should have gotten it. And I was corresponding with a friend and viewer of the talk show, and on this particular topic, this friend and viewer shall remain nameless, because this friend and viewer is close to the decision-making process, if you may. But I got this question. Did Charlottesville City pick Kochis as the police chief because of the value proposition of higher education, degrees and certifications? And was Kochis chosen because of that paper, that earned documentation? And should that be prioritized over something like institutional memory, experience in the department, street smarts, growing up in the area? Kochis on paper, more degrees and certifications than Tito Durrett. Tito Durrett on paper, 30 years of experience within the department. Is the paper, the degrees, the certifications, the accolades, higher education, more important, hence why he was hired, than the institutional memory of working within the department? Curious of your take on
That's
that.
a tough one. I find it hard to believe that they would just hire him because of the because of the pieces of paper that he's got.
Because if you look at it from an experience standpoint, very similar. Kachis has the 2 years of experience as the police chief in Warrenton. Tito Durrett has 1 year of experience as interim chief in Charlottesville. So
Yeah.
it's not like Kachis had a boatload more experience in Warrenton than Durrett.
It's fair.
So let's talk about that. Deep dive.
Yeah. I mean, we're looking at we're trying to make guesses about the intentions of the people that chose the new chief, and and I stated that I find it hard to believe that they selected Kachis just because of the paper that he's got. I'd like to think it's because they singled out the most important aspects that they're looking for in the I think near term for Charlottesville, and figured that Kachis was the best candidate for that job. And I appreciate your points. I agree that Tito Durrett's got the institutional memory. He's got the time in Charlottesville, knows the people. But all I can figure is that may have been less of a consideration in this case, based on what they need the police chief to do in the next, 2 years. Since we've talked about how long most police chiefs last.
Yeah, the average police chief lasts 3 years in a jurisdiction.
Yeah.
That was a national average you found.
Yeah, 2.5 to 3 years.
2.5 to 3 years. Then I put the over-under on 3 years. Is it a success story if Kachis lasts less than 3 years in Charlottesville before he is replaced or goes to a different job, or is that seen as a hiring failure? For me, this is my take. I always, when hiring or promoting or trying to grow a team, would prioritize institutional memory and experience within a department over someone that has book smarts.
Yeah.
I've said many times on this program, I would take somebody with street smarts over book smarts any day of the week. I would take somebody that is working within a team sports setting over an individual sports setting or no sports setting at all any day of the week. Street smarts and team sports experience undoubtedly supersede in my hiring, vetting someone that is no sports experience and book smart. On paper, these candidates were extremely similar, and maybe that's why they were on the very short list, and probably candidates 1A and 1B, Kachis and Durrett.
Yeah.
Kachis has more degree, higher education, certifications on his resume than Tito Durrett. Tito Durrett has more institutional memory and experience within the Charlottesville Police Department than Kachis. They basically have the same amount of police chief experience. You're talking less than 2 years for Kachis. You're talking a year and change for Durrett. Basically the same.
Yeah, I'd say on a purely, if you're just looking at degrees versus institutional memory, then yeah, it's I think it would be tough to pick Kachis over Durrett.
My friend who was, got me thinking about this, as this particular individual often, and I believe you're watching, you often get me thinking. That's why I very much enjoy our conversations on DM. Made this comment that this particular area, and maybe it's a reflection of the university, that Charlottesville loves to hire people with graduate education more than common sense or experience. Loves to hire individuals with graduate school education over experience and institutional memory in the department.
That's a pretty broad statement, though. Is there?
I mean, Kochis would be an example of this.
Yeah, but you're saying Charlottesville
I mean,
prefers.
the university's got a influence on that.
Okay.
I mean, we got one of the most reputable universities in the world right here in our backyard. We're certainly influenced by the degrees that they churn every year.
No doubt.
You know, now is where the rubber meets the road. I mean, Kochis said yesterday when speaking with the media, his number one goal, which is what we highlighted earlier in the week, is to fill the vacancies.
Yeah.
Roughly 30 vacancies there. And not to utilize the name of who I was interacting with, this person just sent me this DM. Brackney had a PhD, Dr. Rashal Brackney, PhD.
Yeah.
The last fire chief, PhD. Dr. Richardson, city manager, PhD. Fantastic text message. Thank you for making the discussion better. I will keep your name out of it. So that's a talking point right there.
Yeah. So my question
Brackney,
is.
PhD.
Well-
Dr. Richardson, PhD. Fire chief, PhD. Kochis, significant paperwork degrees, University of Virginia. Look at Kochis's
Yes.
resume.
But that begs the question: were they chosen for the PhDs, or did the PhDs make them more better candidates for the jobs?
Or what if it's all of the above?
Yeah.
What if it's all of the above? What does Tito Durrett not have?
I don't know his.
I mean, look, compare and contrast the degrees. Can you call up the degrees, see if you can find the degrees, and read? I read Kochis's yesterday. You read, see if you can find Kochis's and Tito Durrett's online. That's you doing it on the fly. This is a great comment from the viewer that's watching the show that I'm not going to utilize their name. Dr. Rashal Brackney, PhD. The last fire chief, PhD. The last full-time city manager, full-time. Chip Boyles was not full-time, he was interim. Michael Rogers currently is not full-time, he's interim. Was Dr. Richardson, PhD. Is City Hall infatuated with PhDs and degrees and certification in higher education to the point where that is a driver of hiring and superseding other aspects like experience and institutional memory? If you work 30 plus years in a department like Tito Durrett does, do you not have a PhD in the Charlottesville Police Department?
Kind of, sorta. I see. I hear what you're saying.
30
but-
plus years in the department.
Yeah, I get it.
So many different departments within CPD he's worked within.
Yeah.
Traffic, SWAT, Police Explorer. Is Tito Durrett not a PhD in Charlottesville Police Department because of that experience?
I think that's fair, but as I said before, that may not be what they're looking for right now. If he hasn't filled the roles since he's been on the job, maybe they felt like Kochis was a better fit, and that he would better draw new officers to the force, as well as we talked about the other day, connecting with the Charlottesville hoi polloi, so to speak.
Because what were the two words we were dissecting yesterday? It was engagement versus...
Oh, man.
What were the two words, Lisa? We were in Kevin Yancey, Lisa Costello. The two words we were dissecting yesterday, Michael Rogers said that Kochis was...
Interaction, I think. Engagement and interaction.
Is that what the two words were?
I think so.
I mean, because
Or was it involvement?
I think it was
Engagement and
involvement.
Yeah, that might have been it.
Yeah. engagement versus involvement. I hope to God the minutia between engagement and involvement was not the reason why Kachis was hired over Durrett. Really, I do. And on paper, outside of the higher education, these candidates are very identical.
Yeah.
So from what I'm seeing is one man was hired, maybe it's either engagement versus involvement, and the use of that word and how it applies to policing, and also potentially higher education versus institutional memory. Lisa Costello says this applies whenever someone is job searching. They often start out within what type of degree applicants must have. They do not say 30 years experience. Sad but true. A recent grad with no experience can get the job done over a person with 30 years of experience, and potentially vice versa.
I would definitely say potentially vice versa.
Yeah. I mean, it would seem disrespectful to other team members to bring in someone outside from the team as opposed to hiring within the team someone that showed commitment to that team.
Yeah, I mean, unless they don't have the tools to.
And is that tools the degree?
It could be.
Is that what this hire basically means?
It could. There may be, I don't know enough about the job of police chief, and I don't know enough about what it is that they're basically putting on the calendar to accomplish over the next year or two with the police chief, and it could be that they felt the degrees that Kachis holds make him better able to accomplish those goals.
This particular individual says, sadly, very few of us learned anything in school, college that applies to the real world. I can echo that for me personally. I learned in the school of hard knocks, real life, much more than I've ever learned in a classroom setting. I don't know. It's something to consider. Work experience, you got an identical candidate here. I guess the other third factor could be the active lawsuit.
Yeah,
Brackney's brought on,
that could be a consideration.
and the fact
as
that
well.
Officer Durrett was named in it. I would hope that didn't influence the hiring.
True, but let's just say the lawsuit goes poorly for Charlottesville.
I don't think it is. Charlottesville's not even acknowledging this lawsuit.
Okay, but
I don't think Charlottesville's threatened the lease by Dr. Rachel Brackney.
yes, I know that. I'm saying, let's
Hypothetical.
hypothetically, if the lawsuit goes poorly for Charlottesville, I don't know what would that leave us. I don't know that it's not like the lawsuit's going to force Charlottesville to fire anyone, but depending on how it lands, I don't know how that would affect Durrett's ability to act as chief.
It's fair. I mean, it's a fair question. It's a question. I don't think it's fair. It's a question. I don't think it's fair. How's that?
Yeah, I don't think it's likely either, but maybe
Right.
that's a consideration.
I don't think it's likely, but it's a consideration. That's put that way.
Yeah.
Let's put that way. Well, time's going to tell. I mean, we'll see what happens here. Dude comes on the job. Officer police chief Kachis comes on the job in January.
Yep.
So time will tell if he can hire if the first priority is filling roughly 30 open spots. Then the second priority, I would imagine, would be the gun crime of late.
Though I think somebody's put in the feed that despite the visibility of the recent gun crime, this hasn't been the worst year in recent years for gun crime.
Anytime the gun crime creeps outside of traditional pockets of violence, it becomes a problem.
Yeah, definitely. But
That's what's happened.
But we are a very small city, and I would argue that we may just not have been as aware of it, and yes, it hasn't.
Well, 100% that's what it is.
Onto the downtown.
It hasn't
mall.
come into the financial districts or the arts districts or the dining districts or the shopping districts or impacted the University of Virginia. Anytime you have gun crime around the University of Virginia or in the downtown mall, it's going to be front and center. Okay, and is it fair that that's more front and center than if gun crime happens in
Right.
other traditionally violent pockets of Charlottesville? No, that's not fair. But that's the nature of life. Okay? And as it becomes more front and center, it becomes more of a perception problem. And that's something that a chief would have to address.
Yeah.
That they can keep the financial, culture, shopping districts safe. And certainly, the last thing you want is moms of University of Virginia students up in local government because of safety issues, perceived or reality with university students. Because that really will impact time management and quality of life for City Hall and police chief and police department.
But he wouldn't have any jurisdiction there.
Who's that? No. University police would have that jurisdiction.
Yeah,
But the students don't stay on grounds anymore.
that's true.
The students leave grounds to go down West Main, go to breweries, go to the downtown mall, go to Belmont. You see them left and right.
Yeah.
Certainly more so than when I was in college. Carol Thorpe, Queen of Jack Jewett, I think makes a very good point. Jerry, with respect, you're still discounting Tito's management of the embattled SWAT team. Don't you think that may have had some impact on the decision? It would reflect on his job performance. It's a fair comment. Fair comment. His involvement with SWAT, and now Brackney, PhD Brackney, is releasing videos sporadically showing or saying or showcasing behavior within the department. I think it's a fair point, Carol. A very fair point. All right, let me get to this topic here. And then I'm going to talk school resource officers today. Katie Pearl says this. This is a good one from Katie. I learned much more in my extracurricular and leadership roles in college than I did in the classroom. Same. I learned so much when my back was against the wall as an entrepreneur or business owner over these last 15 years than any other time in my life, because I had to figure it out, because that's how I paid my bills. This is interesting. Richmond City is relaxing its Airbnb or short-term rental requirements. I'm going to read a few paragraphs from Richmond BizSense to you guys. Here are the paragraphs, and then we'll talk about it from a Charlottesville standpoint. This is Richmond City. As it prepares a major overhaul of all of its zoning rules, the City of Richmond is moving forward on a trio of proposed changes to regulations relating to short-term home rentals, accessory dwelling units, and minimum parking requirements. In a virtual meeting on Tuesday, city planners presented their draft recommendations for changes to those specific regulations based on research and community outreach and feedback that started with a series of meetings this past August. For the Airbnb-style short-term home rentals, or STRs, the recommendations would eliminate a primary residency requirement in which operators must reside at the property being rented for at least half of the year. They're eliminating that. Are you reading this story?
Yeah.
You should read it as well. Furthermore, instead, the owners of short-term rentals would be allowed in any dwelling in any of the city's zoning districts to operate a short-term rental or Airbnb unit. There will be some specific distance requirements between units, but planners said those distances would fluctuate according to lot sizes. So here's the nitty-gritty. This is the essence of what's happening here. The primary resident requirement, where if you wanted to do an Airbnb in Richmond City's current regulations, which are similar to Charlottesville City and Albemarle County, They require the owner of the Airbnb to live in that property for half the year. That requirement is about to be done with in Richmond City. Officials said that the primary residence requirement was a massive point of contention for operators who rented more than one property. Well, of course it was. If you had to live in a property for half the year to be an Airbnb and you had 3 of them, how the hell could you do that? How could you do that? You could do it with 2 of them.
Yeah.
The first one you would live in half the year, then technically the other one you would have to live in half the year. But if you have 3 of them, you can't live in half the year for 3 of them. If you have 4 of them, you can't live. So if you got to 3 units or more and you wanted to Airbnb them, you couldn't do it in Richmond City.
Yeah.
Can't do it in Albemarle County. Can't do it in Charlottesville City. So Richmond is making the law more advantageous for STR, short-term rental entrepreneurs. I'm curious of you, the viewer and listener, what your take on this is. And then I want to apply it to Charlottesville. Because oftentimes how local government works is it's a keeping up with the Joneses effect. First off, I see the immediate concerns people would have. The immediate concerns with this is, in particular with Charlottesville City, is limited housing stock.
Yeah.
And if you have limited housing stock and you get more people utilizing that limited housing stock in entrepreneurial fashion, short-term rentals, as opposed to a primary residence.
Or long-term rentals.
Or long-term rentals, or thank you for clarifying, you're right, or long-term rentals, then you're going to limit the amount of supply out there, and when supply is limited and the demand remains the same, then the price of the remaining supply is going to go north or upward.
Yeah.
And I think that would happen.
Yeah.
Right? That would happen.
And Airbnbs tend to run for higher than, even if you, I mean, you know, if you look at the cost to rent, I believe the cost for Airbnbs are almost always higher than straight up long-term rentals.
Yeah, you're saying there's more profit margin with an Airbnb than a long-term rental.
Yeah.
There's actually there's more maintenance and management. You're having to turn the Airbnbs every weekend. You're cleaning them, you're coming in there, you're doing the sheets, potentially some more wear and tear.
Yeah, but it's not the type of maintenance. It's not like...
Dude, people have cake parties and ragers at Airbnbs.
Oh, I don't doubt it. But you can hire a cleaning,
Property management service for short-term rentals. They certainly exist.
Yeah, or just merry maids.
Yeah, 100%.
I mean, they can come in and clean a place for $50 or $100.
You can certainly do that.
If you're making, more than that on what you would have made.
We're in agreement. The profit margin with the short-term rental, if operated correctly, people are going to make more per month than if they did a long-term rental.
Yeah.
100% in agreement with you. Mm-hmm. My whole point was it's more maintenance, booking them, cleaning them, finding the guests, the maid service, the potential damage of property because more people are in and out, less ties to the property. They're not living there long term. They're only there for 2 or 3 days. That's just my point. It's more maintenance. We're in 100% agreement that the Airbnb, if operated correctly, will drive a fatter profit margin for the operator than a long-term landlord can earn or gain. 100% agreement. So here's the question I have. Can Richmond City do this? Relax the short-term rentals? Is the sole reason they're able to do this because of the significantly larger stock of housing? There's way more homes in Richmond City.
That's what I would say.
Than Charlottesville City.
If they were currently having trouble with people finding housing, I doubt they would be going through with it. But
okay.
If there is no...
That's what I'm getting at.
Yeah, if there is no shortage in housing stock, then it makes sense. I mean, they're basically, what's the word I'm looking for? They're enabling entrepreneurs to make more profit, which is, if that profit is partially going towards rooftop taxes, then, it's probably a wise move.
Richmond City has also said they're going to be hiring more staff to enforce these regulations, like the collection of transient occupancy tax associated with these Airbnbs. So they're making them more allowed,
Yeah.
relaxing the rules, and they're also going to enforce the collection of taxes on these.
Probably because they don't want this to flip into the kind of situation where all
They
of a sudden
lose revenue on taxes. They don't want that to happen.
that too, but they also don't want this to turn into the kind of thing where they're running out of housing stock, where they start having housing affordability issues and not enough housing for the people that are looking for it.
What if this happened in Charlottesville?
It would be completely different. Is it something that Charlottesville could do?
I don't think it's something Charlottesville can do. Do you?
No, I think it would. I think we've already got problems with having enough housing, and cutting that supply by allowing more people to turn their properties into Airbnbs would just hamper that.
Yeah. Is this something the outer counties could do?
Yeah. Yeah.
Why?
There's more room.
Still have the housing supply issue.
Would we still have the housing supply issue at further out into the counties?
We currently do. The inventory is tight and the car footprint.
How far out does that go?
Pretty damn far.
Well, then it's probably not a wise idea to make those types of changes to the rules yet.
Vanessa Parkhill says, does Richmond City require occupancy taxes to be collected? There you have it. The city gets the real estate tax and the occupancy tax. Always follow the money. That's Vanessa Parkhill, who runs a bookkeeping business, the Queen of Earlysville, using common sense. She's saying, look, they're getting twice the tax revenue.
Yeah.
They're getting the money on the assessments.
And as long as it's not cutting into...
getting the money on the assessments, getting the tax revenue on the real estate tax rate, and then they're getting the third type of revenue, the revenue collected on the occupancy taxes.
Yeah.
They're able to swing this and create an incremental revenue source, additional the occupancy taxes, because they have the housing stock to do it. Where Charlottesville City does not have the housing stock.
Yeah.
So that's a very good comment and point by Vanessa. If you were the hotels in Richmond, how would you feel about this? You feel threatened?
Possibly, but maybe...
Why wouldn't you feel threatened?
Maybe there's a need for it. I mean, if the hotels are already getting filled to capacity on...
But if there's more hotel stock or more housing stock or lodging stock like this, that's going to impact price point. Potentially dropping it because the supply increases. What the hotels want, the hotels that exist around here in Charlottesville and Albemarle, they want there to be a hotel shortage.
Yeah.
Because the existing hotels, if there's a hotel shortage, can drive up price. What the existing hotels do not want is more hotels or more Airbnbs. Because that gives more choices, more supply, which creates competition on price, commoditizes the lodging.
Yeah. It also means they might not always be, packing their rooms every UVA, weekend.
Yeah. We'll go to Anonymous over here watching the program. I love when he chimes in. He says, New York City just tightened their Airbnb rules. New York City is a tight market. Charlottesville is not a particularly expensive market in national context, but city leadership purports we are in a crisis. Would be crazy for them to loosen the Airbnb rules. Yeah, I don't see the Charlottesville City loosening the Airbnb rules either. Hey. Richmond's able to do that because it's got more stock.
Yeah.
And it still has, look at what it's doing from sports tourism standpoint. Hundreds of millions of dollars a year in sports tourism revenue. So it needs to figure out a way to accommodate all these people that are visiting Richmond. Maybe this is one of the ways they're doing it.
Yeah.
And as Vanessa Parkhill says, they've basically created a new, deeper revenue stream associated with occupancy taxes, which I thought was a good comment. Mm-hmm. one more a topic I want to hit with you guys on today's show is school resource officers. I'm hearing from many parents in the Albemarle County public school system that are gaining or hearing or reading information from ACPS. This particular mom who asked that I not use her name says, I thought I would pass on information that was reported to the Western Albemarle High School parents via our representative to the Parent Council of Albemarle County Public Schools. She says they were told this as part of their November update, that Dr. Haas plans to propose to the school board that school resource officers be brought back based on data described as showing that all students feel better with a police officer on the premises and that racial profiling and criminalization of mental health issues has not happened in our district. They pulled, this is me talking, the school resource officers were pulled out by Dr. Haas's team and his cabinet because of concerns of racial profiling or the criminalization of mental health in schools, or students that step out of line then getting arrested in schools, and that could potentially having a damning effect for them as they mature into people. Having an arrest in a school that could be potentially handled in a different way. But the reality is many of the parents and students want the school resource officers back in play. Our contacts within the police department of Albemarle and Charlottesville City also believe the school resource officers should be in the hallways as a point of the contact for the department. These hoaxes that have been happening, a lot of time the hoaxes, you're seeing the full force of the police departments heading to the schools, or a variation of full force, all hands on deck. And we're hearing from our contacts at each department that they're doing this because they don't have a contact directly in the halls that can say, hey, this is a hoax. You don't have to bring the full force or all hands on deck.
I kind of understand that, though I'm not sure how one resource officer would immediately know that a phone call or
one would be better than none.
Oh, I don't disagree at all. I certainly think that it's a good thing having the resource officers back in the schools. I'm just saying that I'm not sure how a resource officer would ascertain that that a bomb threat or a gun threat was a hoax, especially not a call-in.
Do you think, in general, parents, Bill Munkachi, he indicated that he was pro school resource officer in the hallways. I've heard from so many parents that this is a topic of conversation. I think the school resource officer topic is going to be one of the key aspects of the 2023 school board races where 4 seats are up for grabs. I've said many times on this show, if you want to get elected to the school board in 2023, you better figure out this and probably this order: collective bargaining, school bus transportation, transgender accommodation, school resource officers, and curriculum, hot button issues with curriculum. There are your 5 and 6 topic. How do you figure out the teacher and bus driver shortages? Those are your 6 topics right there. If you want to get elected to 2023 education, to 2023 school board, 6 topics right there. If you want to get elected, those are the topics. School resource officer in the circles that I run in are 1 or 2 on that totem pole.
I don't know why.
I think more parents are into the school resource officer topic, parents, not talking teachers here, than those parents are into union collective bargaining with the teachers.
No doubt.
The teachers are driving the union collective bargaining, and I understand why they want to drive that. They want more pay, better perks.
Yeah.
The parents are concerned about their kids first, and that's why they're talking school resource officers. Probably second with the parents is bus driver transportation problems.
Definitely.
And depending on where you are in Albemarle County, those could flip-flop 1 and 2.
Yeah.
What were you going to say?
I would just be surprised to find a whole lot of parents who don't want resource officers. I think when
well, Carol Thorpe is exactly right. There's a small radical group of socialist
Vocal
Charlottesville,
minorities.
small radical group of socialist Charlottesville that pressured school board
Yeah.
and administrators and ACPS and Charlottesville Public Schools to get the school resource officers out. That's
Yeah.
what happened.
Right, and I wonder how many of those people are actually parents.
That's a good question. Or how many are parents, but whether their kids are still in school or not.
Yeah, well, that's my point.
Parents of active students.
Yeah,
It's a great question.
because it's easy to say, it's easy to say, look what someone so and so did somewhere, and say we don't want that to happen here. But the fact of the matter is, as you stated just a minute ago, it's not happening here. We haven't had issues with resource officers, with
Profiling.
profiling, sending kids to jail, things like that. And if I was a parent, I'd feel more comfortable knowing that there was someone
100%.
watching over my kid.
100% us. 100,000% my wife.
Yeah.
100,000%. So that's a bit of information that's going to start hitting the news cycle for viewers and listeners. The ACPS is showing, and Dr. Haas is now percolating and circulating and communicating school resource officers back in the hallways. After this experiment of pulling the resource officers for fear of profiling and or pop and circumstance arrests, causing problems and issues in hallways. That's not been the problem. We'll follow that closely. We know the news watches this show. You probably will start seeing this in the news cycle as well. This topic came up on the show this morning that I thought was really good. Wawa is now opening another location. This time Wawa is opening on the corner of 29 North and Greenbrier. Where are the Wawas in Charlottesville area? I'll Google Wawa too. Wawa, Charlottesville. You Google Wawa, Albemarle County. Wawa on Pantops, that's technically Albemarle County. I'm stealing some of your thunder here.
Yeah, that's the one I go to.
Wawa on 5th Street Extended, the old Hardee's. Wawa on off of Prophet Road. Now a Wawa coming on Greenbrier Drive. I mean,
I'm not seeing a whole lot of them.
Sheetz is opening left and right. Why are the big box brands targeting this market so strongly?
In this case, I don't really have a problem. I mean, what are the big? I mean, what are the small gas stations that have made it big? I mean, because if you think about
Wawa and Sheetz.
but they're not small. They're chains.
What's your question?
My point is that if let's say there was no Wawa and no Sheetz, most of the gas stations left are still going to be Exxons and Shells, and there aren't a whole lot of small, single owner, single.
Occupant. Owner operator.
Yeah, there aren't a whole lot of gas stations that just have one location and one owner. Wherever you go, you're going to find
The food the Wawa and Sheetz are selling are still taking the food away from something.
That's fair, but
And we know that they have advantages that even say, even Tiger Fuel doesn't have. I mean, with ordering equipment. Now, Tiger Fuel's done a good job with, for example, Bel Air on Ivy Road with its ordering kiosks, which is streamlining the process. And if you've been into the Bel Air on Ivy Road, they're completely revamping the footprint for that business.
I would love it if the Bel Air markets spread out around Charlottesville.
They're great.
Yeah, but there's not that many of them.
There's a lot of those. More than you would think. You got one down Mill Creek. I mean, if you look at the markets at Tiger Fuel, you find them up there. You could rattle them off. There's a lot.
There's a fair number, but
The big box brand has an unfair advantage, and I think it's penetrating this market for a number of reasons. Obviously, one of the reasons is the amount of wealth that's in this area. But one of the advantages that the big box brand can have penetrating this market is we're in a massive labor shortage for food and beverage. So if the big box brand comes in with this technology and these ordering kiosks, and these automation systems, they're going to gain market share very quickly versus mom and pop that doesn't have the capital to utilize automated systems and is still relying on labor.
I can kind of see that, but you're talking about taking an order. And if a mom and pop is getting the kind of foot traffic that the Wawa on Pantops is getting, then I think they're not going to be worrying about paying a few people to take orders.
Bodo's on the corner had to close because of no labor, multiple days. Not closed permanently, but multiple days Bodo's on the corner has closed because no labor. And they certainly got the kind of traffic that Wawa has.
That maybe they got too much traffic, and I don't know. But the fact of the matter is that the Wawa on Pantops that I usually end up going to, they've got usually like 2 or 3 people back in the kitchen. And
why do you go to that Wawa? Just out of curiosity. Is it the food or the proximity for the gas?
It's because Pantops is basically on my way home. I can turn off of East High, jump up to Wawa, and then come right back out, and I'm heading straight down to the bottom of the hill
to park and beyond.
Park. Yeah, so it's fast and easy. And after checking it out, I feel like it's got better deals than the Speedway that I went to before that.
Gas-wise.
Yeah. Gas.
That's a lost leader.
And price-wise, plus they've got a greater selection. The Speedway had they've got.
Food-wise.
Yeah, a few little things. Even if you're not talking about the kiosks and the food ordering, Wawa still has like little tubs of fresh fruit. They've got pre-made salads. They've got sandwiches, in pre-made containers. And that stuff is all pretty good too. I've had one of the salads. I've stopped on the way home from work and gotten, like a tub of fresh fruit.
Andre Xavier says, the king of entrepreneurship, Andre Xavier, that gas stations are not profitable, less than 3% profit margins on gas. He's right. They're not making the money on the gas.
Yeah.
The gas is a loss leader to get them on site, where then they can then sell them booze, cigarettes, lottery, food, prepackaged goods.
Yeah.
The ones that do best are the ones that just don't have a gas pump. I mean, there's a reason why Kroger and Costco, you can get gas with your Kroger card or your Costco card way cheaper than market. It's a loss leader to get you in the door. It's the rotisserie chicken strategy with Costco. Costco ain't raising the cost of its rotisserie chicken or its hot dogs because they know they get people in the door, then they buy other stuff, and then they make up the loss on the rotisserie chicken with the purchase of other goods. Same thing Tiger Fuel's doing. Tiger Fuel gets you in there with some gas and maybe some rewards points, and then next thing you know, you're getting King of Clouds, Tall Boy, and a Keswick sandwich on your way out the door.
Yeah.
Not speaking from personal. But he's exactly right. Andre, I mentioned this live on air. Good comment. Enter, publish, sent to Andre. Paul McCarter has this comment. Paul's the king of Southside. Gas stations, many gas stations are local small businesses that license gas from Exxon, Shell, BP, etc. I mean, that's Tiger Fuel. Although it's not, Tiger Fuel's turning into a pretty big business right now. Kevin Higgins says the fountain soda is the big money for these stations. Fountain soda is big money for any food
business.
And beverage business.
Yeah.
Any
you
of
can
them.
sell a $1.50 drink that costs
$1.95 costs you
10
5 cents. That's a hell of a markup.
No doubt.
Lottery is a good one.
Yeah.
Vanessa says, Sheets, Vanessa Parkhill in Earlsville, Sheets started out as a family business in Pennsylvania. I had the pleasure of hearing one of the sons speak when I was in college. They were not always a big box brand. I guess not everyone in the business is looking to expand on that level. Yeah. Kevin Yancey says, also notice Sheets and Wawa have no gas company names attached. Meaning, Kevin, you're saying that they're not licensing gas from gas companies or doing a joint venture JV or some kind of rev share agreement with the gas companies. Is that what you're saying, Kevin Yancey, with the signage comment? And Kevin has a lot of perspective to offer on this. He's a professional driver, so he's all over the state with his CDL license. So I want to hear what he's got to say about that. This is my worry. Here's my worry. We're getting more Wawas, we're getting more Sheets, we've gotten more Chipotles.
Do we?
Chipotle on the UVA corner. We're getting another Raising Cane's on the UVA corner, right? We're getting more Starbucks, right? More Chick-fil-A's. Getting another McDonald's. You're seeing these big box brands utilize automation, kiosks, and technology and apps. Everyone's getting encouraged to order your food ahead of time on your app. They are solving the labor crisis through technology and automation, where the local businesses don't have that capital or that kind of technology advancement. Right. So they're stuck in the labor crisis of needing human capital to serve the food and clean the tables. The big box brands are solving the problem by dropping labor on their business models or cutting back on it. So as they solve the problem, the big box brands, they are going to take customers from the local small ones away from them. And that makes me worry.
Yeah.
Because I don't want this to turn into the Fredericksburg main drag.
Right.
That's what I'm worried about. That's why I bring it to your attention.
I can definitely see some enterprising entrepreneur in the not too distant future coming up with a low cost alternative that would allow mom and pop stores to
have automated kiosks. I would love to see that.
To utilize that kind of technology, yeah.
I would love to see that. It's like the same way we've seen in certain markets, like for instance, I hate to go back to the Richmond market, Grubhub and what are the food delivery services? Grubhub and what's the other one? I'm drawing a blank on it.
I can't think of it either.
You should know this. Don't you get your food delivered?
I mean,
DoorDash.
Yeah.
Okay. They take such a huge chunk, 30% plus, on to-go orders, that Richmond, Virginia had a bunch of locally owned food delivery services come in and say, we will only take 15%. Mm-hmm. Andre Xavier tried to do this with during the pandemic.
Yeah.
With Seville Delivery.
Yeah.
And they cut the margin in half, passing more margin on to the mom and pop.
Yeah.
I would love to see a similar strategy put in play where you don't have to be a big box brand to afford robots or automation or mobile ordering apps or kiosks.
I think it's already happening to some extent.
Rory Stolzenberg tried to do this with Foodio. Rory Stolzenberg, who's a planning commissioner, when I first met Rory Stolzenberg like 10 years ago, he and two other guys, University of Virginia graduates, were operating this brand called Foodio, where they created digital solutions for restaurants, like improved ordering websites and digital infrastructures that help restaurants capture online ordering.
It's definitely happening more. I think more frequently and probably at a lower price point now, because I'm seeing it. In fact, I've ordered from a few places, most notably I think Fabio's and Red Lantern. And
DoorDash or Grubhub?
Well, that's the thing. You go to their website and they've got it doesn't even take you off site. You just start clicking on what you want, and
Those are probably iframed websites, DoorDash or Grubhub websites that have been
Could be.
branded as the individual
I mean,
mom and pop with like a logo, same template, just substitute the logo on their menu.
that could be the case with Red Lantern. I don't think it's the case with Fabio's. Check out their website. It looks pretty
Custom?
Yeah, I mean it there's that oftentimes that brief little I think before you get to the website there's you know it when you see it and you're like, oh, that's that's just a delivery website that they created or somebody created to capture that business.
Janice Boyce Trevelyan is watching on one of our 15 Facebook pages, and she says at Torchy's in Stonefield, you go in and order at the counter, take a buzzer,
Yeah.
and then they buzz you, and then you get your food. They have no servers, and one guy coming out and cleaning the tables. That's going to be I hate to say this, the mom and pop,
I mean, that's basically
that's going to be the future for the mom and pop.
Fuzzy's Tacos as well. You go
That's a lot of them.
Yeah. You just get a buzzer.
I think that's the mom and pop's version of the mom and pop's way to contend with automation is the pickup window where they go order at a register and their name is called verbally or a number 76, and the customer comes and picks up the food at the window. That's the verbal version of automation.
Yeah.
And how
It's
you
like
could
Tacos
basically
Go
compete
Mess.
with the kiosks.
It's like a food truck.
Right. Right. But in that scenario, you would need less labor and maybe less, would you need a smaller front of the house? You'd still need probably the same size front of the house. You would certainly need less labor.
If you're going to have seating.
I still think you need the seating. Kevin Higgins says, wait until these EV stations prioritize electric charging. That takes longer. And the big box brands that have EV charging stations are going to have a huge advantage because there's going to be limited EV charging stations. You're going to have to go there, charge your EV for
And then you
a
gotta
couple
sit
of
there and
hours,
wait.
sit there and wait and eat.
That's going to be wild.
That's going to be wild. If you have to stay 90 minutes at a place, you're going to probably order food there.
I'm not sure how many people are going to be. I mean, that'd be rough. If I was on a trip, having
Well,
to stop for
As
an
opposed to
hour or
spending
longer.
$100 in gas.
they're not free.
No, I know, but they're a lot less. It's a lot less.
And then there's the opportunity cost of having to sit there for an hour and a half or whatever.
Fair. You're going to weigh that over the cost of $400 in gasoline round trip. I mean, that's the val prop there.
I don't know what the difference is in price between gas and
Someone's time.
charging.
Kevin says, yeah, Wawa and Sheetz, they own their own gas. And because of that, they have better chances to offer discounts to consumers because they don't have to pay royalties or fees to third parties who are providing them the gas. Andre Xavier says, at Patch Brewery, Andre and his partner John Craig own Patch Brewery, says, this is how we do it at Patch with our food truck. You order food at the bar and we give you a buzzer. When the food is ready, you come and get the food. It does speed up the service quite a bit.
Yeah.
No
doubt.
service, no waiting tables.
Yeah.
No service staff. Andre and John do it right. He also said with Seaville Delivery, we sadly did not have enough restaurants sign up, and it is hard to compete with the big guys marketing. But hey, we tried and kept our staff working during the COVID shutdown. I admired your efforts, Andre, with Seaville Delivery.
Definitely.
I thought it was awesome, what you guys did. Let me respond to him. I admire your efforts, sir, exclamation point. Carol says this, add to it all, when McDonald's and the likes were forced to $15 per hour wages, they simply worked to automate the positions to eliminate the jobs. Many of us predicted this would happen. Carol certainly did, and we did as well. Convenience stores and fast food cannot have $15 wages starting for their staff and stay in business.
Right.
They're just going to innovate, and the jobs will go away.
Sadly.
Janice Boyce Trevelyan says Patch is the best. So, Andre, you're getting props from Janice Boyce Trevelyan on their page. I'm going to tag you on that. I will tag Andre Xavier on this. Patch is good. You're doing a good job over there, Andre. Oh, wow, it's 1:40. Okay, Andre, this one's for you. Go to a one-shot. Go to a one-shot, if you can. Andre, there is a winery brewery party bus that's currently for sale. The asking price is $85,000. The year this business was established was 2018. The ask is the key word, is 85. Gross revenues for the past year was 47,000. Financials available on request. Furniture, fixtures, and equipment right around $20K. 3 employees on this party bus that does wineries, breweries, and events. So another business for sale. We need to start, this is what we're going to start doing at I Love CVille. We'll start creating like a notebook or a digital notebook or a digital rundown of all the businesses that are for sale that people are sending to us. That way we can have one central location where everyone in, say, within 60 miles of Charlottesville, I mean, it's worldwide, it's online, can find these businesses that are for sale in our market.
Yeah.
Because it's just, how it's done now is just discussed amongst brokers.
Yeah.
We should do that. In fact, we will do that. That's a fantastic idea. We can call it like the I Love CVille Network business listings. Right?
Yeah.
I like that idea. All right, that's the Wednesday edition of the show. Anything you want to add?
No.
We encourage people to do Santa at the Clifton.
Yeah. Santa at the Clifton.
You got the details for that?
Definitely. Let's see.
You can do it off the top of your head if you need to.
No, I got it right here. Santa brunch is coming up
On Sunday,
very soon. Yes.
11:30 a.m. to 2 p.m.
Yep.
Have brunch with Santa and get your picture taken
Yeah.
at the Clifton. Call ahead for reservations. This Sunday, you can have brunch with Santa Claus at the Clifton.
Bring your kids.
Bring your kids. Make memories. Fantastic brunch.
Yeah. Have a great brunch. Have your kids get pictures taken, and might even still be time to get those turned into holiday cards.
I think you could do that. Yeah. Or at least a photo for a gift.
Yeah.
Photo in a frame. That'd be dope. All right, job well done, Judah. The Clifton, this Sunday, brunch with Santa. Tell your friends and family about that. Today, Mañana, tomorrow at 10:15 a.m., and then the I Love CVille show at 12:30. We keep the topics local, and we keep them authentic and talking points that matter. We will see you guys tomorrow. Have a good afternoon. Take care.